Good morning. We're going to take notes on slope today, and then when we're finished, you can grab your new playlist. You know which ones you're on. Just stay on A or B or C, and then with whatever time is left over, you can start working on your playlist. These slope notes look like this, and in our table of contents, we are going to make page 13 and 14 slope. So fill that out in your composition notebook. And then we'll go to page 13. And at the top, we write slope again. Okay. I think it would be easier if we fill this out first, and then I'll show you how we're going to attach it in there. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what slope is. And right above slope, I want you to write rate of change. Because we've been talking about slope for the last 3 or 4 days, but we haven't called it slope. We've called it rate of change, and I just want you to realize that it is the same thing. We are still talking about moving up and over. So when we talk about the definition, over here, we're going to say that the technical mathematical definition is the ratio, and that means we're going to write it as a fraction because that's what a ratio is, of the vertical change. We get vertical on a graph from going up and down, and that's the y coordinates. So it's a ratio of the vertical change to the horizontal change. Horizontal is left to right, so that's your x coordinate. So if you haven't talked about delta, which is a triangle in science yet, you will. It means change. So the symbol is the change in y over the change in x. And so over here, to write it out in words, it's the change in the y's, I'm making it plural, over the change in the x's. And I was saying over the last couple of days when I was talking about the rate of change, I was saying up and over, but now slope is very popular as rise over run. So instead of me saying up and over, we're going to say rise over run. Rise on top in the numerator, run in the denominator. So there's a formula that you can use. Well, by the way, another definition that's less mathematical, but it makes more sense. When we talk about slope, we're just talking about the steepness of a line. That might be a definition that's easier to understand. So we talked about yesterday when you were on Student Desmos, we said that the bigger the slope, the steeper the line. So a large number in front of x is going to give you a very steep line. A fraction, maybe like 1/5, is going to be less steep. So there's a formula. When you get two ordered pairs, and they want to know the slope of the line that goes through them, there are numbers in here because that's what ordered pairs are. But whatever this first number is, it's the first x that you get. This is the second x. And of course, these will be numbers like -1 and 3 or 5 and 7. But for the formula, we say it's the first x and the second x. These are subscripts. They're just little numbers to say the first x and the second x. So in this first ordered pair, you get your first y. And in the second ordered pair, you get your second y. Now in math, there's a letter that always represents slope, and that letter is M. It just always represents slopes when we write equations of lines. So when we do the formula, we say M equals, and because the slope is a ratio, which means it's a fraction, we know that we're going to have a fraction line here. And rise means to go up and down. And to get the rise, you have to figure out the distance between your y's. So rise comes from the y's. Rise, y's. Well, if you want to find the difference or the distance between two numbers, you subtract. So in the formula, we're going to take the second y, whatever number that is, then we will always subtract the first y. And again, in a real problem, these will be replaced with numbers. I'm just giving you a formula to always use. And if you're going to subtract the y's, one from each point, in order to get your vertical distance, then to get the run, we would have to subtract your x's. And we do it the same way. You take your second x, and you subtract your first x. And that's the formula we use if we're given two different points, which we'll get to. Now, I'm going to move over here to types of slope. A positive slope is moving from up and right, like this. So let's put a point here at -3, -3, and another point at 1, 2. We'll connect those. To find the slope of this line, we can just count. We don't need to use this formula if we have a graph. So you want to find two perfect points on the line, and what I mean is we want the line to go through the corner. And since I already made these two apparent, let's just use those. And we'll say M equals, what you're saying is the slope is, and then we count. We'd have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. And because we went up, it's a positive 5. And then we count over. We have to go 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the right. And so our slope is 5, 4, which means to get from point to point on the line, perfect points, you have to go 5 up, 4 over, 5 up, 4 to the right. and that's a positive slope. To think about it as positive, think about a climber. We're going to use a hiker for all four of these examples. And the hiker would have to, if he was walking left to right, the way we read, he would have to go up in a positive direction to get up this hill. So that's a positive slope. So if you're doing a problem and you see the line go up to the right like this, but your answer is a negative, you know you've done something incorrectly and you should fix it. Opposite of that over here, negative actually goes down to the right. So let's graph 2, 3, and 3, negative 3. And then connect those. To find the slope, we say m equals, and we have to rise. Well, in this case, if I always go from the left point to the right point, I want to go from here to here, but I have to rise to get my numerator. And so I actually have to go down to get to this level here. So I'd have to walk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks down. That means I made a negative move 6 times. So I make this negative 6. Then I move to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to the right, and it's negative 6/5. And so if there was a hiker here walking from left to right, he's going down the hill, which is represented with your negative sign there. A zero slope means that there is no incline. You're not moving up and you're not moving down. An example would be this line right here you can graph. Any horizontal line has a slope of 0. So this line has a slope of 0. This line has a slope of 0. Any horizontal line has a slope of 0. Here's the reason. I'm going to pick these 2 points right here. If I rise up 0 and over 2. Well, 0 divided by anything is 0. And no matter what line that is horizontal that you do that to, rise 0, run 1, still 0. So any horizontal line will have a slope of 0. Undefined is the 4th type of slope problem that you could have. And these are all the vertical lines. So draw a vertical line. Undefined means that there's no solution. There is no slope. It's not that the slope is 0. 0 is a number. Okay, m is 0. This is undefined, meaning we can't even talk about the slope of this line because it just doesn't have one. And here's the reason why. Let's pick these 2 points here. It's always a fraction. We rise from here to here, 2, but I do not have to run anywhere to get to this point, and we should know that any number divided by 0 is undefined. So I can't even figure out the slope of that line because mathematically it doesn't work. All right. So those were examples of if you have a graph, if you have a line on the graph, to find the slope you just have to count and put the rise number, vertical change in the numerator, your horizontal change in the denominator, and make a fraction out of that. If you're given 2 points, then it's time to use the slope formula up here. So we always start with m equals and a line, because slope is a ratio, which means it's a fraction. And just to make it easier, if we label this is the first x, the first y. Second x, second y. And we can fill these into our formula here. And we said the formula is you subtract the 2 y's up here. So this is the second y. So I should make that a 2. So the second y minus the first y. 7 minus 8 is a negative 1. And the second x minus the first x is 2. So my slope is negative 1/2. Which means that I've got a line going downward like this, because it's negative. And to get from point to point, you have to go down 1 to the right 2. Down 1 to the right 2. That's what the slope means. All right, you take a minute, and I'm going to pause so that you can do this yourself. Let's label these. This is the first x, the first y. Second x, second y. So now I want you to take these 4 numbers and put them into this formula and figure out what the slope is. Go. Okay. The second y is 9. The first y is 3. So we subtract those in the numerator. So if you were up at 9 and the next one's at 3, that means there are 6 between them. 6 of these units here, these blocks. Then we do the x's for the run. If the second x is negative 2 and the other one was at 1, from negative 2, which is like down here, up to 1, that's 3, or here. So that's negative 3. And when it can be reduced, -1 could not be reduced, but when it can be, because it's a fraction, you always must reduce. 6 divided by -3 is -2. All right, so what we're going to do is these are going to be helpful on our next playlist when we start talking about the equations of the line. So we're not ready for this yet, but we're going to use it. So I would like for you to make this a trifold. So we'll fold the right side in, and then we'll fold the left side on top of that. And then we can glue or tape this to page 13. Like this. Close it and shut the book. When I get back with you on a Monday, then I'll have something else for you to put over here. Excuse me. So for now, this is what we have, and this is good enough to get you started. You can either grab a laptop and start the IXLs, or you can do the worksheet part of your playlist. But right now, you need to go to the back and make sure you get the correct playlist in the Math 8 folders that are standing up. They're under the Math 8 pink label. Go back to your table and use the rest of the time to get a little bit of work done on your playlist. And I will see you guys on Monday.